Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Today, Andre and Sebastian is gonna do the content for me. Well, I'm gonna react to it kind of because they sent me these videos, which I did not expect, from their training session, where Sebastian, who is a pro player, tried a bunch of rackets. He has some arm issues with his Blade 98. Could be the pretty stiff MSV Focus Hex string, but it's not that stiff, so he wanted to get a little bit of a taste. So he wanted to try a bunch of different rackets because he doesn't have a lot of experience testing rackets, and in the end we ended up with Pure Drive 100, Ezone 100, Radical Pro, Tecnifibre Tfight 305S, and a Pure Aero 98 to start. That was a little bit of a mix to see whether anything kind of resonates with him. Obviously, this is not a scientific test, this is a personal test. I didn't string them all the same. I know that would be the scientific way of doing it, but then on the other hand, he gets a little bit of a flavor here of what's possible. So word over to Andre and Sebastian. I will also comment a little bit on what I'm seeing and about the different rackets in this video. So I hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe if you do, and check out tennisnerd.net for more.
Okay, so today we try without Jonas from Tennis Nerd, but still he's supporting with the test rackets that we have to try. Sebastian plays with Wilson Blade, and he wants to try something else that helps his arm a little bit more when he plays. So we will go through some Tecnifibre, Babolat, Wilson, and one head racket.
So usually I'm playing with the blade, but lately whenever I play a lot of matches, arm starts to hurt a little bit. So maybe it's a bit stiff. We'll try some new stuff.
So Sebastian starts with the Pure Drive 100, which is a powerful racket. Obviously, it's something that requires you to be able to really control the ball with spin, because with his level, like he's a Blade 98 user, which is a very control-oriented racket, then the Pure Drive might sail on him when it comes to match play. And that's something also he pointed out a little bit afterwards, that he really liked how it played. Like, he got a lot of free power, free depth, and some free spin, but when it comes to match play, he's obviously worried that he will start missing, and I think this is a real worry, because that's the thing. When you go up from a more control-oriented racket to a power racket, what can happen is that you start missing, but in match play, because in practice you're relaxed, so maybe you find a way to control the ball, but when you get to match play, you're a little bit tight and a little bit nervous, and then suddenly the balls start spraying. So that's something you have to take into account. I generally recommend always testing rackets also in matches, not only like in practice, because it's not enough. You're not going to get enough information, and once you're out there on the match court, if you're playing matches, that is, of course, then things might break down, and that's not nice. Then he tried the Pure Aero 98, which is a racket that could suit him more. Sebastian does like to stand on the baseline and take the ball pretty early. Very strong athletic guy, good serve, he's tall, so he can really generate power from the baseline. He did initially very much like this. We'll hear his comments. But obviously there's a case here for the Aero 98 also being a little bit of a flyer racket. Like, the racket will shoot the ball out with a pretty high launch angle, so that could be something to either adjust to, and it might be too much of an adjustment, or it might just not suit his game. So it was an interesting try because it's such a popular frame, the second most popular in sales in Tennis Warehouse numbers from last year after his Blade 98. So quite fascinating to see how that works for him. And he really liked this one though, so he wanted to keep it, but it wasn't like for sure a home run. It's fun to use, the ball goes, but you might have a little bit of too much elevation on your shots, which might lead them to landing long. You can hit flat with the Aero 98. It's not a racket only for spin players. It can take some flat shots with the 1620 pattern, pretty whippy. But you need to swing fast, because that's really how you can generate control with this racket. It's a racket that requires a quite whippy, fast swing.
I just tried the Pure Drive and what's this one called?
Okay, so we just tried the Pure Drive and the Pure Aero. Pure Drive is with the 100 head size, and the Pure Aero is with 98. What do you think, Sebastian, of these two rackets?
Yeah, I really liked them. I felt great power with both of them, and yeah, definitely a big difference compared to my Blade. I felt a bit more acceleration actually, which was nice.
So which one would you prefer from these two?
Well, I would need to try a bit more, but right now I prefer this one.
from the power or
yeah, from the power and a bit easier to play with.
Yeah.
I think.
Next up was the Tecnifibre Tfight 305S, super hyped up racket. Talked about this frame with Carousel in the most recent podcast. He loved it. He made a switch to it. Many players love this frame. I also very much liked it, but I can see that some players don't enjoy it, especially in Sebastian's case. He's coming from the blade, 16-19. He wants some more help. The Tfight is not going to give him, I think, enough more help. And with the 18-19 pattern, potentially less help because it's a very controlled launch angle. And it's a bit more powerful in terms of stiffness, but he did not quite vibe with the feel here and did not really enjoy the racket as much as you might think, you know. But it's a good test. Even if a racket gets rave reviews from loads of YouTuber playtests or whatever, it's always good to actually try it for yourself, because it might not be a winner for you. It's such a personal thing there with rackets. And then he went to the TF40, which is more the blade, but he tried the 1820 strung with a hybrid of multi-filament and Racer Soft. And this one he liked more and also looked better. I think he struck the ball really well with this one. Obviously 1820 will not give him more forgiveness. It would rather be the opposite. So, but it could be something he tries with the 1619 and getting a little bit more, you know, help from the foam perhaps in the TF40 than the blade. So the foam filled part of it makes it a little bit more solid and a little bit more comfortable, you could argue. I don't see the blade as an uncomfortable racket, but it's just something that could be very personal. And if you want some help from the racket, you want the ball to pop off the string bed, the blade is not going to be the one for you, because it is quite demanding of a frame, the 98. However, I think the string is generally the culprit in most of these cases, but I think it's very good for him to see what's out there, see what can work for him. It's always good to get kind of a breakdown on that.
Now we tried the two Tecnifibre versions, the Tfight and the Tfight 40, and Sebastian was quite quick to say this one didn't feel really good for him.
Yeah, I felt with this one I had to work a bit harder, accelerate a bit more and use my legs more, which I don't like. And this one I felt pretty good, but yeah, so far I still prefer the Babolat rackets.
Next up we had the Radical Pro. I was going to give him the MP, but that was on loan to another pro player. It's been a busy period here in Marbella. The sun is back and everybody's playing tennis, and there's many pros here because there's clay court season in Europe and now in Madrid Masters and so on. This one looked good from the way he was hitting the ball. I also noticed Andre hitting pretty well with this one. It's a solid racket. It's a very demanding frame for the club player, I would say. I would recommend most people to go for the MP, which is what the other pro is testing, who's like 150 in the world. And Sebastian hit well with this one. I think it was something that could work for him. But it has more weight and it's not like less demanding than the blade. But he might enjoy the feel, he might enjoy something more. So still, like, even if it's on paper the same type of stick, I think there could be differences in how you perceive it and how it works for your game depending on your style. So that's why you always have to kind of demo. You cannot only rely on reviews. And then he tried a very, very different frame in the Ezone 100. A very powerful frame. Something that he did note as well, that it has a lot of power, this one, even more than the last generation of the Ezone 100. I felt like this one has too much, while the Ezone 98, they added a bit of power, and that was a good thing. But when they added power to this, it just got too much. So I think they could have stayed within the parameters of the previous Ezone, because this one has a lot of power, and I find it quite difficult to control.
Okay, so now we tried out the Hit Radical, the Pro version, and the Ezone 100. And what do you think about them?
Yeah, for me the Ezone was flying quite a lot of power, whereas I felt this one was easier to play with. Felt good on the backhand especially.
A bit more solid racket, yeah?
Yeah, I felt fewer mistakes. Obviously it's difficult to compare because it's, you know, different string pattern on all these rackets, but yeah, I quite like this one as well.
You have something to say about the designs of these two rackets with the more colorful?
Yeah, a bit too fancy for me maybe,
yeah.
But a bit too funky.
Yeah, you're more into
but
classic rackets.
If you look at the
yes.
string pattern.
We have a little bit of bonus content here actually, because I hit with the boys yesterday actually, and got to add some content to this video. The Pure Drive 98 here is something that Sebastian couldn't test in the first go, but got to test it now alongside the Pure Aero 98. And he felt like this was a little bit heavier through the air. Got a bit more court penetration, which is what you should get with the Pure Drive. It's a stiffer frame, a little bit heavier in the head, so it goes through the ball more with more plow through. But it's not as whippy and not as spinny and launchy as the Aero. He did like it, he did play well with it, but I still think the Aero looked like he was something he was enjoying more, which is very important. Like, you need to really enjoy hitting and playing with the racket. It has to feel good. But obviously, when it comes to match play, that's when the real test comes. I think the Drive 98 is a quite demanding frame. I think most club players that have tried this racket feels like it is heavier to swing, feels like it is a little bit smaller of a sweet spot than on the Aero 98, for example. So while the Pure Drive 100, which Sebastian also tried earlier, is very user-friendly, very easy to play with, and has a large sweet spot, this one really goes for more advanced players that can attack the ball and are, you know, more consistent at hitting in the center of the string bed. So definitely a more demanding racket. Could work for a player of this kind of caliber, but it's not going to be maybe the main choice for most club players, where I think the Aero here would make more sense, because it is easier to play, easier to swing. Yes, you might need to have a pretty fast swing speed to hold the ball within the lines, because it does bounce and kick up and launch. But it's a little bit easier to swing, easier to use, a little bit easier on the arm, I would say, as well. Pretty comfortable racket, the Aero 98. Especially this version, the VS was pretty firm, but this one is pretty arm-friendly. So I think this one could work pretty well for Sebastian, but he would have to try it in a match. And here he's back with his blade for a little bit. It was extremely windy this day, so tough to use. And in the end, he tried also the Ezone 98, which he thought had the best feel of the rackets. He might lack a little bit of plow through. My copy here of the Ezone 98 has a 320 strong swing weight, so it's not like the most plow through racket. And it is semi-firm. He did notice that it's a little bit firm. It feels very plush in the string bed when you hit the sweet spot, but outside it can be a little bit harsh and a bit tough on the wrist. So good to keep that in mind. But he liked this racket a lot as well. But I think the Aero was his favorite in the end. So interesting playtest. We'll see what Sebastian ends up with when he goes back on the Futures Tour now in May. So we'll follow his progress, and if he comes back to Marbella, we'll do an update of this video. But I hope you liked it. So that was the playtest. Thanks to Sebastian and Andre for testing and submitting these videos. And it's always interesting to see what people like, whether it's scientific or not. It's such a subjective thing. From what I understand, Sebastian was most in tune with the Babolats here, and I actually gave him a Pure Drive 98, and he wanted to keep the Aero 98. So they have an addictive feel, especially the Aero 98. Pure Drive 98 is a little bit more of an acquired taste, a bit more of a demanding frame than the Aero. So I'm keen to hear back from Sebastian. Can maybe do a reel about that or something, an update to this video, because I'm keen to hear how that could work for him. But overall, based on the hitting footage, based on the feeling, yeah, he would like a little bit more help from the racket, and I think the Aero could work, but it's that launch that is a little bit of a question mark. Like he said, I mean, he loved the drive. That was the one he was playing with the most. But the issue is then, like, how will that work in a match? That was his concern. And you have to kind of play it in a match and see what happens. Like, even if it's a practice match, at least you will see if the ball is starting to go long. You don't need to go to a tournament to try it, but a practice match and see what happens, you know. And very nice game. Sebastian is an excellent player, and I wish him all the best on the Pro Tour. Andre himself, you've seen in previous videos, also a very good player. Nice one-handed backhand. If you like this type of content, we will do more in the future. Thanks, guys. Have a nice day now, and don't forget to play some tennis.